The viewing chamber was a cathedral of glass and steel, suspended above the curve of Targus. From here, the dignitaries of half a dozen empires could see the void stretch wide, a stage where fleets prepare to bleed. Ambassador Rill of the Kree leaned forward, his silken tendrils brushing the railing. They scatter their ships as if blind. No cohesion, no sense. A rabble dressed in steel. His voice carried the satisfaction of one who expected confirmation of long-held prejudice. Across from him, the Talvek observer clacked its mandibles. Humans are primitive. They mistake chaos for strategy. The Dominion will cut them apart. The chamber hummed with agreement. All eyes turned to the holographic display. With a Dominion fleet gathered in perfect formation, massive, symmetrical, unyielding. Rows of warships stretched across the void, a wall of power designed to intimidate. Against it, the human presence seemed pitiful. Scattered strike groups, a few capital ships huddled at the center, escorts spread wide like debris. To the aliens, it was not a contest. It was a culling. On the bridge of the Resolute, Commander Elias Cade stood in silence, his gaze fixed on the shifting icons of enemy vessels. The Dominion Armada loomed 3-1 against his own, precision engineered, relentless, predictable. He exhaled slowly. The recycled air of the ship tasted faintly metallic, tinged with the ghosts of battles fought before. He pressed the tension down, flattening it into calm steel. His officers needed resolve, not doubt. Lieutenant Marave approached, her face drawn tight beneath the sharp lines of her uniform. "Fleet reports ready, sir. All squadrons at standby." She hesitated, then lowered her voice. "We're outmatched. Badly." Cade didn't look away from the display. That's been true in every war humanity has ever fought. His hand rested on the railing, knuckles pale. "And yet we're still here." Mara studied him, searching for cracks. She found none. "Transmit fleet-wide." His voice dropped into the calm, deliberate cadence his crews trusted. The calm officer nodded, and a faint chime signaled that thousands of ears waited. "This is Commander Cade. Ahead of us lies the Dominion. Bigger, stronger, convinced we'll break. They don't understand who we are. They don't understand what it takes to kill us. Hold your line. Fight as if the whole of Earth is at your back, because it is." He paused, letting the silence stretch, then added, "If they want humanity broken, they'll have to bury us ship by ship." The calm cut, and the bridge fell into a hushed charge with iron. Mara met his eyes, and for the first time that morning, she almost believed they could survive. In the observation chamber, the alien dignitaries heard fragments of the human broadcast through intercepted channels. Murmurs rippled like unease through water. "Such arrogance," Rill scoffed. "Do they not see the wall before them?" Yet even as he spoke, a flicker of doubt crossed his expression. Humans did not sound like prey. High Marshal Zytrax's voice thundered across every frequency, silencing the chamber. His image appeared towering and cold, armored in ceremonial plating that gleamed like obsidian. "Humans," he declared, "your struggle ends here. Your species is clawed at the stars without merit, without discipline, without right. Today you will learn your place." Ashes scattered across the void. "This system is ours. Your resistance is meaningless." Cheers erupted within Dominion ranks. In the observation chamber, the ambassadors nodded approval. On the Resolute, Cade listened without expression. When the transmission cut, he murmured, "Funny, every tyrant sounds the same." Mara smirked faintly despite herself. "And they always believe themselves invincible." Orders rippled across the human fleet. Engines flared to life, ships sliding into position with quiet determination. From a distance, it still looked disorganized, even desperate. But beneath the surface, patterns formed, wolf packs preparing to strike, hunters setting snares. On the Dominion side, dreadnoughts shifted into perfect alignment, an advancing wall of annihilation. Energy signatures spiked as weapons charged, 1,000 lances ready to fire. The alien observers leaned forward, eager for the inevitable collapse. Ambassador Rill whispered, "Watch closely. This is the end of the human experiment." No one contradicted him. Cade's bridge dimmed to battle light. Shadows cast across steel, consoles glowing pale blue. He felt the hum of the Resolute's core through the deck, a steady heartbeat beneath his boots. He turned to Mara. Signal, all ships. Advance on my mark. No wasted shots. Every strike counts. She relayed the order, her voice crisp. Around them, officers bent over consoles, hands moving with controlled urgency. No panic. Not yet. Cade straightened, shoulders square. Out the forward viewport, the Dominion armada stretched vast and terrible, swallowing starlight. He had seen death before, but never on this scale. He knew many of the faces behind those blips on his tactical screen would never see Earth again. He carried them already, silent weight pressed against his chest. But retreat meant extinction. Better to carve scars into the Dominion, so deep they would never forget. Mark, he said. Engines roared in synchrony. The human fleet surged forward, a scattered tide against a flawless wall. In the chamber above, aliens gasped. What are they doing? A Talvec envoy demanded. This is suicide. Rill sneered, but the tremor in his tendrils betrayed unease. They don't know any other way. The first weapon's fire lanced across the void, brilliant threads cutting the dark. Dominion beams stabbed through space with surgical precision. Human ships responded with ragged volleys, chaotic and uncoordinated, or so it seemed. The battlefield flared alive. On the Resolute, vibrations shuddered to the hull as return fire streaked past. Cade's expression didn't change. Bring us closer, he ordered. Let them think we're desperate. Mara shot him a quick glance. And are we? He allowed the faintest curl of a smile. Desperate, yes. Broken? Never. From the observation deck, the galaxy watched humanity hurl itself against doom. Most waited for collapse, certain the battle would be brief. Yet a thin thread of unease coiled in the air, unspoken but undeniable. Because already, even in the opening clash, something was wrong. The humans weren't scattering. They were circling, and the first Dominion ships were starting to fall. The Dominion fleet advanced in flawless symmetry, a wall of steel cutting through the void. Hundreds of cruisers and dreadnoughts moved in perfect ranks, shields glowing, engines burning steady blue. It was a formation designed to intimidate, to crush enemies by sheer inevitability. To the alien dignitaries watching, it was beauty in motion. To Commander Elias Cade, it was a machine waiting to be broken. Range closing, Lieutenant Marvey reported, her voice clipped but steady. On the Resolute's bridge, the tactical display glowed with hostile signatures. The enemy icon stretched wide across the screen, swallowing the human fleet's scattered points of light. Cade's hand tightened on the railing. Signal Wolf Groups 1 through 5. Begin the pattern. Orders shot across encrypted channels. To the casual observer, the human fleet seemed to dissolve into chaos. Frigates veering from their lines, destroyers breaking formation, cruisers drifting into irregular orbits. In the observation chamber above Targus, alien envoys scoffed. They scatter like frightened insects, sneered the Talvec observer, his mandibles clacking. This is not strategy, it is panic. Ambassador Rill's tendrils swayed in agreement. Numbers will crush them within the hour. Yet not all shared a certainty. A Euron scholar frowned, her 6 eyes narrowing. No panic. Look closer. They're circling. The Dominion fired first. Lances of white energy ripped across space, carving trails through the void. A human frigate flared as its shields collapsed, then burst apart in silence. Another vessel followed moments later, its broken hull tumbling in slow arcs. The chamber erupted in murmurs of approval. On the Resolute, no one flinched. Frigate Valiant lost, reported Mara. Her tone betrayed nothing. Tell their families they bought us time, Cade replied. His gaze never left the map. Now, strike! From the scattered human line, Wolf Group 1 ignited engines and darted forward like predators breaking cover. A half-dozen frigates looped around a Dominion cruiser, weaving unpredictable paths. Their cannons blazed at close range, hammering the target's flanks. Shields flared, cracked, and collapsed under relentless assault. Wolf 1 reports kill confirmed. Mara called. The chamber above fell silent for a beat. An alien envoy hissed, "Impossible." Dominion shielding cannot be collapsed so quickly. The Huron scholar's eyes gleamed. Not if attacked where they are weakest. Not if the attackers are willing to die to make the breach. Even as she spoke, one of the human frigates slammed directly into the cruiser's wreckage, tearing itself apart, but driving debris to the Dominion formation. The path it carved opened the way for the others to escape. On the bridge, sweat gathered along Mara's hairline. "Sir, they're sacrificing entire ships." Cade's jaw tightened. "So the others may live. Every life has a price. Today, we choose where it's spent." The Dominion countered swiftly. Squadrons of destroyers fanned out, trying to hem in the unpredictable human groups. Their firepower was overwhelming. Coordinated strikes hammering human vessels into sparks. For each Dominion cruiser that fell, 2 human ships followed. Losses mounting, Mara warned. "They knew what they signed on for," Cade said. His voice held steel, but in his chest he carried the weight of every name. Keep the groups moving. Never let them settle into a pattern. In the observation chamber, the mood had shifted from smug to uneasy. The aliens had expected collapse in minutes. Instead, the Dominion was bleeding. A Rakari warlord slammed a clawed fist against the railing. "They throw themselves into fire. It is madness." "Madness," the Huron scholar whispered, "or instinct." On the display, another Dominion cruiser erupted in flame, its detonation lighting the dark like a dying star. A ripple of shock moved through the chamber. Back on the Resolute, Cade stalked between stations. Wolf 3, break through their flank. Wolf 2, harry their rear line. Don't engage head-on, make them chase you. "Yes, sir," Mara relayed. Her eyes flicked to him. "You're making them fight on our terms." "They don't adapt well," Cade said. "We do." Another impact rocked the ship, throwing officers against their consoles. Warnings flared crimson. "Shields holding at 60%, shouted the tactical officer. "Maintain course." Cade steadied himself, his expression calm, almost cold. Let them come closer. The Dominion's high marshal watched from his flagship, fury simmering beneath his armor. Humans were supposed to scatter, not bite. "Press harder," he growled. "Do not give them room to breathe." His officers obeyed, tightening their formation, pushing the wall forward. On the Resolute, Cade's lips curved faintly. Exactly what I wanted. The trap sprung. Human destroyers that had drifted far from the fight suddenly cut engines and pivoted. Hidden thrusters flared, launching them into the Dominion's rear line. Torpedoes fired point-blank, detonating shields, crippling ships. Alien dignitaries gasped. "They feigned disorder," murmured the Huron scholar, her voice reverent. "They used chaos as camouflage." Even Rill had no retort. His tendrils had gone rigid. The battle raged for hours measured in seconds. Ships tore through each other, beams slicing across the void, explosions painting fire in the dark. The Dominion was stronger, but the humans refused to fight like prey. They struck, withdrew, struck again, bleeding their foe one cut at a time. On the Resolute, Mara whispered to Cade, "This isn't survival, it's slaughter." Cade didn't look at her. "They brought the numbers. We'll show them the cost." When the first Dominion dreadnought listed and broke apart, silence fell in the observation chamber. The wreckage drifted in massive chunks, sparks scattering like ash. Ambassador Rill's voice was hollow. This was not supposed to happen. The Huron scholar's 6 eyes burned bright. "You watch history shift. Humanity does not scatter. Humanity bites." On the bridge of the Resolute, Cade gave no sign of triumph. His eyes remained on the tactical screen, where Dominion's strength still dwarfed his own. He knew the battle had only begun, and the price had already been steep. But in the silence after the dreadnought's death, he allowed himself a single thought. The galaxy was watching, and for the first time, it would remember. The wreckage of the fallen Dominion dreadnought drifted like a broken monument, its shattered hull glowing in the void. Around it, the battle still burned. The Resolute's bridge trembled under fresh impacts, warning klaxons piercing the air. Commander Elias Cade gripped the railing, his gaze locked on the tactical map, where red still outweighed blue by an unforgiving margin. Report, he ordered. Wolf 3 reduced to 2 ships, Lieutenant Marvey said quickly. Her voice was tight, but steady. Wolf 2 is down to 1 frigate. Casualty list updating by the minute. Cade exhaled through his nose, sharp and controlled. Then every survivor carries twice the weight. Signal them. Hold positions and keep striking where it hurts. Mara hesitated, then met his eyes. Sir, they've given everything already, and we'll ask for more, Cade said low, because if we break, the rest of humanity burns. Above the battlefield, in the observation chamber, alien dignitaries watched in silence. The Dominion fleet pressed relentlessly forward, lines tightening, guns spitting fire. Yet for every human ship that was erased, a Dominion vessel went down with it. Ambassador Rill's tendrils twitched in agitation. This is wasteful. To throw lives into fire with such recklessness, barbaric. The Huron scholar's eyes glittered. Reckless or deliberate? See how their formations shift. One falls, another fills a gap. Each loss feeds a strike that cuts deeper. The Talvek envoy hissed. Madness. They are not preserving their kind. They are feeding it to slaughter. Yet the slaughter is two-sided, the Huron replied softly. On the Resolute, the floor shuddered under another blast. Sparks rained from an overhead panel. The tactical officer shouted, Shields down to 30%. Keep weapons hot. Cade snapped. Target that cruiser bearing 3-5. Fire all batteries. The Resolute's guns lit up, pounding beams into the Dominion vessel. Explosions erupted across its hull, splitting armor, venting fire. The cruiser drifted, broken, but the victory was brief. 2 Dominion destroyers flanked and unleashed torrents of plasma fire. The Resolute bucked violently, alarm screaming. Starboard shields collapsing. Compensate with auxiliary power. Cade barked. His knuckles whitened on the railing, but his face betrayed nothing. Inside, though, he felt the drag of exhaustion, the creeping weight of names lost. Commander, Mara said, her tone quieter now, almost pleading. We can't keep bleeding like this. If we don't pull back. Cade cut her off, voice like iron. There's nowhere to pull back to. Retreat only delays extinction. Her jaw clenched, but she gave the nod. He softened just slightly. Mara, every ship out here buys Earth another breath. That's why we hold. The Dominion retaliated with fury. Their battleships pushed forward, concentrating fire on the remaining human squadrons. A frigate and Wolf was split in 2, both halves spinning away in silence. A destroyer detonated moments later, the blast rocking nearby vessels. On the alien observation deck, several envoys leaned forward, caught between horror and fascination. They should break, the Rakari warlord growled. No people fights on when hope is gone. Perhaps hope is not what drives them, the Huron scholar murmured. Cade's voice carried across the bridge. Wolf 5, swing wide and harass their supply craft. Make them guard their tail. A battered frigate captain replied over comms, voice crackling. Acknowledge, Commander. We'll give them hell. Mara's console flashed. Wolf 5 reports heavy fire. The transmission cut off in static. Moments later, an explosion bloomed in the distance, fragments scattering like ash. Mara's throat tightened. She looked at Cade, waiting. His eyes never left the display. Mark their sacrifice, then strike harder. Hours, or minutes measured by heartbeats, bled together. The Dominion still pressed, relentless, but the wall had fractures. Their perfect machine faltered against the chaos of human will. Yet the cost was staggering. The tactical map showed only a handful of blue icons remaining, each battered, each surrounded. The Resolute shuddered again, fires bursting along the port side. Hull breaches on decks 5 through 9, an officer shouted. Seal them and reroute power, Cade answered. His voice was steady, but inside he knew they were burning down to marrow. In the observation chamber, murmurs grew louder. Some envoys looked away from the carnage. Others stared as if entranced. The Huron scholar spoke, quiet but firm. They fight not for victory, but to carve a scar, to make sure the galaxy remembers their defiance. Ambassador Rill's tendrils writhed. It is unsustainable. They will all die. Perhaps, the scholar replied. But even in dying, they alter the balance. The Dominion bleeds in ways no other has ever caused. On the bridge of the Resolute, the tactical officer shouted, "Enemy dreadnought locking weapons." Cade leaned forward. "Bring us about. Head straight at it." Mara whipped toward him. "Straight at a dreadnought? Sir, that's suicide." He met her gaze, calm, unwavering. "So was coming here. Plot the course." For a heartbeat, she searched his face. Then she nodded and relayed the command. The Resolute's engines roared, driving it directly toward the towering dreadnought. Alien observers pressed against the glass of their chamber. "They charge!" the Talvek envoy hissed. "Into the maw?" The Rakari warlord bared teeth. "Insanity." "No," the Huron scholar whispered. "This is defiance given form." The dreadnought loomed larger with each passing second, weapons primed, shields glowing like a fortress wall. Cade's voice dropped to a murmur, almost himself. "If history must remember us, let it remember this moment." The Resolute's guns unleashed everything. Torpedoes, plasma, rail fire, slamming into the dreadnought's shields. Explosions lit the void. The Dominion behemoth staggered, defenses buckling, but its return fire was brutal. Bolts of white energy slammed into the Resolute, tearing through decks, gutting compartments. The bridge shook so violently that crew were hurled from their stations. "Main reactors critical," someone shouted. Cade steadied himself against the chaos. "Then we take them with us." The dreadnought's shields finally collapsed. Flames poured from ruptures across its hull. But the Resolute was dying too, fires eating alive. Mara turned, smoke curling behind her. "Sir, we can still disengage." "Maybe." Cade's eyes were locked on the burning dreadnought ahead. His voice was low, certain. "No, this is where we end it." In the observation chamber, silence reigned. Every alien watched as a human flagship, battered beyond saving, hurled itself into the Dominion Colossus. The impact was cataclysmic. A white flare engulfed both ships, tearing them apart in a final blaze that lit the void brighter than any star. When the light faded, wreckage drifted where two giants had stood. The chamber remained hushed. The Huron scholar's 6 eyes glistened. So ends a Resolute, but not their story. On the edges of the battlefield, what remained of the human fleet scattered into shadows, still fighting, still striking. The Dominion wall was cracked, scarred, diminished, and though humanity had lost its flagship, the galaxy had witnessed something new. The cost of provoking a people who would rather burn than bow. The void was littered with fire and debris. Dozens of human ships floated shattered, some burning, some drifting silent and lifeless. Yet among the survivors, the pulse of determination throbbed stronger than the explosion still echoing in the darkness. Commander Elias Cade stood on the bridge of the Valor, the flagship hastily promoted after the Resolute's destruction. His uniform was streaked with soot, but his posture remained rigid, shoulders squared against the weight of command. Around him, the bridge hummed with tension. Consoles flashed warnings, officers barked coordinates, and the remnants of wolf groups circled like wolves waiting for the next strike. Lieutenant Marave approached, her eyes scanning the screen. "Sir, we're down to less than half of the remaining combat ships. Dominion reinforcements are regrouping and closing in." Cade's gaze didn't waver. Numbers mean little. They rely on predictability. Humans adapt. He tapped the display, outlining a collapsed formation. "We pull them in, force the fleet into the core. Let them strike, let them overextend." Mara frowned. "You mean we bait them?" Cade's jaw tightened. "We trap them. Make every shot cost them twice as much. It's the only way." In orbit, alien observers were leaning forward, some gripping railings as if they could peer into the human mind. The Talvek envoy hissed, mandibles clicking nervously. "They do not retreat. They do not plead. They corral the enemy willingly." Rill's tendrils twitched with unease. "Every strike they take, they welcome it. How is this possible? They are fragile." The Huron scholar's eyes narrowed. "Fragile? No. They are fierce. This is the core of humanity. Corner them and they bite." Even among the envoys, there was a shift. Some leaned back, uncertainty creeping into their expressions. The battle was not going as they predicted. On the Valor, Cade's voice cut through the chaos. Wolf 1 and 2 sweep the flanks. Draw attention. Wolf 3 harry the rear. Keep them focused here while the core maneuver begins. Yes, sir, Mara relayed. The remaining human ships moved in concert, weaving patterns that looked chaotic to the Dominion, but were precise to Cade's eye. The fleet collapsed inward, a shrinking circle, daring the Dominion to press. Energy signatures flared as torpedoes streaked through space. One by one, Dominion cruisers were lured into ambushes, attacked from angles they hadn't anticipated. The Dominion High Marshal Zytrax roared across his flagship. Hold the line. Do not allow their desperation to dictate terms. But the Valor's maneuver was flawless. Human destroyers darted between massive dreadnoughts, overloading shields and striking weak points. The Dominion formation began to buckle under pressure, clusters of ships staggering and losing synchronization. Cade stood silently, studying the shifting display. Each blue icon human represented lives ready to sacrifice a mission, and he felt the weight of every one. We win or die together, he muttered, almost to himself. Mara watched him. You make it sound simple. He allowed a faint, grim smile. Simple, no. Necessary, yes. Meanwhile, among the alien observers, reactions ranged from awe to horror. Ambassador Rill whispered, Do they understand the cost? Each of those ships is a human life. The Huron scholar's voice was calm, almost reverent. Yes, that is the point. Their sacrifice shapes the outcome. Their fearlessness changes the battlefield itself. Even the Talvek, notorious for their disdain, lean closer. They fight like predators cornered. Nothing we have seen compares. Back on the Valor, the Resolute's legacy haunted the bridge. Cade tapped the panel, viewing the list of lost ships and crews. Each name was a reminder, a mark of blood and courage. He gritted his teeth and issued the next orders. Wolf 4 split and flanked the central dreadnought. Wolf 5 covered them from above. Focus all firepower on their command vessels. Do not waste shots. Mara transmitted, voice steady despite trembling hands. Understood, sir. Divisions moving into attack positions. The human fleet twisted, a living formation of strategy and desperation. Explosions lit the void, filling the bridge with the glow of distant conflagration. Every strike tore away at the Dominion, but each cost human lives. Then came the pivotal moment. A dying human frigate, barely functional, broke from its assigned path. Its captain spoke over comms, voice ragged but defiant. For Earth, for everyone, we take them with us. The ship barreled into a Dominion cruiser, detonating in a blast that ripped through both hulls. The bridge of the Valor shook violently, alarm shrieking. Mara's hand flew to her mouth. Cade's voice was calm, almost gentle. Mark that sacrifice. Remember it. Move the others in. Even amid grief, the fleet pressed forward, striking harder where the enemy was exposed. Dominion shields flared and faltered. Coordination slipped as morale wavered. They had expected humans to collapse, but each act of defiance stung deeper than any weapon. From orbit, alien observers whispered among themselves. They die willingly, Rill said, almost a hiss. And yet they do not break. Not prey, the Huron scholar said softly. Predators. Even in death, they dictate the terms of engagement. The chamber fell quiet. Some envoys could not look away. The humans were shaping the battle with nothing but courage, instinct, and unflinching resolve. Cade surveyed the battlefield, calculating losses, plotting maneuvers, weighing options. Even as ships burned, his mind was precise, coldly rational, yet threaded with empathy for his crews. He understood that every order could be the last one they followed, and he carried the responsibility with unwavering resolve. Mara spoke, almost whispering. Sir, can we hold them? He didn't answer immediately. He only watched the enemy formation fracture under the relentless human assault. Then, finally, yes, not because we are stronger, but because we refuse to yield. They will see that tonight. The final moments of the chapter surged with action. Human ships, battered and reduced in number, moved like a singular entity. Dominion dreadnoughts staggered, strikes misaligned, their advantage slipping. Explosions flared, beams cut arcs across the void, and the human fleet carved paths of destruction that would be remembered long after. In the observation chamber, silence lingered. No alien voice could describe what they had seen. The humans had endured, and in doing so, they had turned the tide from desperation into deliberate counterattack. The galaxy was beginning to understand something it had long underestimated. Cornered, and bleeding, humans were The void was quiet now, but the silence was not peace. Wreckage drifted between the stars, the skeletal remains of ships that had once roared across the battlefield. Fire still bloomed in the distance, sparks of metal tearing across the void like falling stars. The Targus system bore scars that no orbiting observatory could ignore. Commander Elias Cade stood on the bridge of the battered Valor, the flagship of a fleet reduced to less than a third of its original strength. His uniform was scorched, a faint streak of blood cutting across his cheek. Around him, officers moved with quiet urgency, patching systems, rerouting power, marking casualties. The fight was over, but the cost was written in the deck plating beneath their feet. Lieutenant Marve approached, voice steady though her face betrayed exhaustion. "Sir, the Dominion fleet is retreating. They've disengaged completely." Cade nodded, eyes still fixed on the tactical display. The red icons, the enemy, were collapsing, moving away in disorder. They've learned a hard truth today. Humans do not yield. Above the battlefield, alien observers remained at the edge of their stations, gazing down at the remnants of the fight. Ambassador Rill's tendrils writhed, an instinctive response to tension and disbelief. "They survived against all odds," he said, his voice a hushed murmur. "Every protocol, every calculation, and yet they endured." The Talvik envoy's mandibles clicked nervously. "We expected them to break under pressure. We expected blood to run and hope to die, but they adapted." The Euron scholar's eyes glimmered, reflecting the ruins below. "Not just adapted," she said. "They transformed the battle itself. They forced the Dominion to bleed in ways no one imagined. This is why humanity cannot be underestimated." A silence fell across the chamber. Even among the most experienced envoys, none could fully process what had unfolded. On the bridge of the Valor, Cade's crew worked in tense coordination. Consoles pinged with status updates. Shield at minimal levels, hull integrity critical, weapon systems damaged but operational. A junior officer spoke, voice trembling with relief and disbelief. "Sir, the fleet, we actually held them." Cade didn't smile. He only allowed himself a brief exhale, steadying the fatigue that pressed at his shoulders. "We didn't win," he said softly, more to himself than anyone else. "We endured. That is enough." Mara glanced at him, her hand brushing over a scorch mark on the console. "Enough for now. But the galaxy will remember this, won't it?" He looked out through the forward viewport at the scattered wreckage, a graveyard suspended in starlight. "They will, because we made them see the cost of underestimating humanity. The Dominion High Marshal Zytrax see that aboard his flagship, orders have been ignored. Formations had collapsed, dreadnoughts destroyed in ways his tactical mind had never predicted. His voice, booming across the fleet, carried anger and humiliation. Fall back, regroup at the fringe. Even as he retreated, the weight of human ingenuity and ferocity pressed upon him. The humans had no ships left to spare, yet each one remaining struck like a blade. Each death had been a statement. Cade's fingers rested lightly on the rail, watching the enemy retreat. "They will not forget this day," he murmured. The surviving human ships began to regroup, forming a protective perimeter around the Valor. Fires burned out on the smaller crafts, automated drones scanned for breaches, and the wounded were ferried to makeshift medical bays. There was little celebration. Survival was not victory. It was a promise that humanity remained unbroken. Mara moved to his side. "What now, Commander?" Cade's gaze swept across the void. The remnant of the Dominion fleet were retreating, but the galaxy beyond Targus would never look at humanity the same way again. "Now," he said, "we repair, we rebuild, and we remind anyone who dares look down on us what it means to corner a human." In orbit, the alien observers recorded, debated, and whispered. Rill's tendrils twitched nervously. We thought humans fragile and capable, yet they fought like predators. The Huron scholar nodded. Predators who do not strike for hunger, but for survival, for principle, for everything they hold dear. That is why they endure. The Talvek envoy's mandibles clicked in agitation. They could have been crushed. Yet each action, each loss, amplified the effectiveness of the next. They are unlike anything in recorded history. The chamber fell silent once more. Outside the viewport, the scorched stars bore witness. The humans had not conquered, but they had demanded recognition. Back on the Valor, Kay allowed himself to address the fleet, voice steady yet solemn. Every one of you who survived today is a testament to what humans can endure. You have seen friends fall, ships destroyed, the void itself turned against you. Yet you fought. You adapted. You survived. He paused, letting the word settle. Do not celebrate. Do not feel relief. Remember the cost. Remember what it took to hold this line. And know this, our place in the galaxy has changed. Never again will any empire assume humanity is weak, timid, or easily broken. Mara met his gaze, a mixture of pride and exhaustion in her eyes. They'll fear us now. Kate allowed the faintest hint of a smile. Good. Let them fear what they do not understand. Even in the distance, as debris floated like frozen fire, the alien observers recorded every detail. The memory of humanity's defiance would linger, reshaping alliances, strategies, and perceptions. Some envoys whispered, some argued, but all recognized one undeniable truth. Humanity's courage was a weapon in itself. The galaxy had come to watch prey stumble into the void, but what it saw instead were predators, cornered and relentless, unwilling to bow. Cade walked the bridge, hands brushing against consoles, reviewing systems, listening to status reports. Around him, the fleet worked quietly, tending wounds, salvaging what could be saved, repairing what would remain. Humanity had survived, not unscathed, not triumphant, but alive and defiant. Mara approached him one final time. Sir, what do we tell the worlds? The colonies. He looked out at the stars, where smoke still traced the paths of fallen ships. We tell them the truth, he said, voice low but firm, that humans do not yield, that when pushed to the edge, we bite back, hard, and the galaxy will know, from this day forward, that humanity will not be ignored. In orbit, the alien observers recorded the departure of the Dominion fleet, whispers spreading through the chamber like an electric charge. They survived against everything, the Huron scholar said. They are a force, and now the galaxy fears them. Ambassador Rill could only twitch in silent acknowledgement, unable to voice the unease that coiled in his tendrils. The void remained silent, punctuated only by the drifting embers of the dead and the hum of the surviving human fleet. Humanity had endured, had fought, had changed the rules. The Targus system would never forget. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, a new understanding began to take root. Corner humans were not prey. They were predators.